In this video, I'm going to talk about being gentle with yourself and some lessons that I learned from a soft shell crab. So sometimes insights can come from the strangest of places. I was sitting on the dock in the back of my house, watching the light reflect on the water and listening to the egrets calling in the mangroves. I was on the tail end of a period of several months in which I had been undergoing intense internal healing. I say healing now, but at the time, from the outside, I may have seemed more like a recluse. And internally, I feared that I had finally gone crazy. And I decided to check the crab trap to see what unsuspecting creature I had outsmarted. And I carefully pulled up the rope, avoiding the sharp barnacles that had begun to grow. And I plunked the trap down on the dock, finding 2 small blue crabs, not big enough to eat. Now, I never really understood why we humans use the word crabby to describe when someone is grouchy. I don't find crabs to be ornery. I see them as confident and determined. And their personalities, if a crab has one, are proud, as if they know that they're feared. And if you've ever had a crab bite a hold of something, such as the bait that you put out or even the tongs when you're trying to cook them, you will know that they have a lot of fire in them, and they do not let go. So I have a healthy respect for crabs, and I had mastered the art of getting crabs out of the trap without having to get too close to them because I'm a little bit afraid of them. Now, so what a sight to see, me jumping around, avoiding those little claws, as if I'm leaping out of the way of an alligator's jaws. So I'm amused by their feistiness, and so I decided to get out a stick and play with them, see if I could get them to grab on. And I poked at one of them, and he didn't respond. And I poked at the other one, and when I pushed it, I realized that it was just an empty shell. Even though it was 100% complete, like the whole shell was there, but it was empty, including all the legs. So I thought to myself, how strange. So I poked the other one again, and to my surprise, he felt squishy. And there was still no response, like he didn't try to go after my stick or anything. And then I poked his claw, and I was shocked at what happened, because his claw bent. So for a moment, my brain remained suspended in a state of utter disbelief and confusion because I couldn't figure out what was going on. And it was at least 20 seconds before I put the puzzle together that the crab had just shed his entire shell right there inside of my crab trap. And I had heard the term like a soft shell crab before, but I'd never even given a thought to what that really meant. And it is true that when learning something new, which happens every day, it can create a paradigm shift. And so that's what happened to me. So this day, I didn't simply receive a lesson in marine biology. I learned compassion for my own vulnerability. So once I knew that the crab had no defenses, I just had to hold it in my hand to see for myself. So I gently plucked him out of the trap, taking care not to scratch his exposed body on the jagged wires of the trap. This fragile little creature just sat there and looked at me. And I was in awe of the beauty of what he had done. What bravery it took to completely remove his armor in order to allow himself to grow and transform. Despite knowing the risk of exposing himself, he said yes to life and released what no longer served him. And I ran my finger across his claws, which were once his primary defense system, and I felt empathy for his newfound vulnerability. When I was overcome with this emotion, I realized that I was not only acknowledging his plight, I was finally embracing my own, and for the first time I had compassion for my own vulnerability. I'd been going through a process of releasing old wounds by allowing repressed emotions to surface and transmute. I can only claim partial responsibility for this process, although I put a great deal of effort into creating the space for healing. Much of this emotional processing was happening involuntarily as a response to the tremendous transformation that I had just recently undergone. I have found that once you begin to let go and to change, life often takes over and runs with it, and that's what was happening to me. And holding that delicate crab, once confident and determined and now soft and defenseless, I made peace with my own pain. I saw clearly that I was not, in fact, going crazy, and I was not weak. I felt empowered knowing that true strength lies not in our hard shells, but in our willingness to expose our true selves and embrace the vulnerability of change. I don't know how long it takes for the newly freed crab to regain its strength, but I imagine it's quite brief, and I'm grateful that he honored me with the blessing of witnessing this short window of time. I know that for me, it took somewhere near 6 months. One of the things that inspired me about this clever crustacean was that although he had the faith to release without allowing the fear of death to stop him, he was smart enough to find a safe place where he could unveil his true inner self in peace, in my crab trap. Either that or it was just lucky timing, I'm not sure. So there's another lesson that I learned from all of this. And that is that sometimes when you feel like you're trapped, you're actually exactly where you need to be. So I put him back in the trap with his former identity and gently placed them back into the ocean. I said goodbye to the sun as it tucked beneath the horizon of the mangroves, and I carried myself gently back up to the peaceful place that I had created, where I could feel safe to embrace my vulnerability. In order to truly live, you must not cling to your hard exterior or your identity. Instead, you must embrace change, risk being vulnerable, and above all else, have compassion and be gentle with yourself.